The night was silent. A thick fog curled around the Cain estate like a ghostly shroud. Inside the grand house, a scream cut through the stillness, sharp and desperate. It came from the study. Detective Lena Marlowe arrived just minutes later. The imposing mansion stood dark, save for the faint glow spilling from the study window. The heavy oak door was locked from the inside. The butler had found it closed when he came to deliver Mr. Cain's nightly tea. No one had answered the knock. Lena's heart pounded. She felt the weight of something terrible before she even stepped inside. The hallway smelled faintly of smoke and old wood. Inside the study, the scene was chilling. James Cain lay sprawled on the floor, eyes wide open in shock. A knife gleamed, buried deep in his chest. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and glistening. His fingers were clenched around a torn piece of paper. The fireplace crackled behind him, but no fire had been lit for hours. Lena crouched down. She carefully pulled the paper from his hand. It was a fragment of a letter, words half-burned, barely legible. "Truth will ruin us all." Her mind raced. Who would want James Cain dead? And why was this letter so important that someone tried to destroy it? The room was a mess. Books toppled from shelves. A shattered vase lay on the floor. The window was cracked open, curtains fluttering in the cold breeze. Was it a break-in? Or was the killer still inside? Lena's phone buzzed. "Detective, we've secured the perimeter. No sign of forced entry except this window." No one else reported on the grounds, her partner, Detective Grant, said. Lena stood, eyes scanning every inch of the room. Something was off. A clock on the mantelpiece ticked steadily, oblivious to the horror. It had stopped at 11:47 p.m. "Time of death," Lena muttered. Suddenly, a soft creak echoed behind her. She whipped around. No one. Just shadows. Lena's gut tightened. The killer might be closer than she thought. She turned her attention back to the torn letter. Tracing the charred edges, she whispered, "Who's hiding a secret that could destroy the Cain family?" Days earlier, James Cain had hosted a family gathering. The tension between him and his children was no secret. The Cain family was known for its wealth and influence, but also for dark whispers of betrayal and greed. Lena interviewed the family members one by one. First, Margaret Cain, the widow. Her eyes were red-rimmed but steely. "James was difficult. But I loved him." Then, their son, Richard Cain. He was cold, almost arrogant. Father's business dealings were reckless. He deserved what he got. The daughter, Claire, seemed fragile. "I was away that night," she claimed. "At my friend's house." Lena sensed lies, but no one cracked under pressure. Meanwhile, forensic reports trickled in. The knife was traced back to the Cain estate kitchen. No fingerprints other than James's and the butler's. Yet the butler had an ironclad alibi. He was with guests during the estimated time of death. Lena's frustration grew. She turned to the torn letter again. What was the full message? Who wrote it? And what truth could be so dangerous? That night, she returned to the mansion alone, driven by a need to understand. The house groaned under the wind. Shadows danced in the flickering candlelight she carried. In the study, Lena noticed a faint smell, something metallic, almost like blood but different. She followed the scent to a hidden panel behind the bookshelf. Her fingers traced the edges. The panel gave way to a narrow compartment. Inside lay a worn leather journal. Lena's breath caught. This could be the key. She flipped it open. The pages were filled with James Cain's handwriting. The first entry. "The past haunts me. Secrets buried deep in this family could unravel everything." She read on, uncovering tales of deception, lies, and threats from an unknown source. Suddenly, a loud bang from upstairs startled her. She froze. Footsteps approached. Lena's hand went to her gun. A shadow appeared at the door. "Detective Marlowe," a voice whispered. She blinked. It was Claire. Claire's eyes were wide, terrified. "I didn't tell you everything," she said. Before Lena could respond, Claire slipped a small envelope into her hand. "Read this. It's what you need to know." And then Claire fled into the night. Lena's fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph, a faded image of James Cain standing beside a man Lena didn't recognize. But that wasn't all. On the back, a message was scrawled. "He wasn't who you thought he was." Lena's mind spun. Who was James Cain really? And who was the stranger? Suddenly, the sound of tires screeching outside shattered the stillness. Lena rushed to the window. A black car sped away into the fog. In the passenger seat, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face, Richard Cain. Her heart hammered. Had he known more than he let on? As she turned back to the study, Lena's eyes landed on the fireplace. Among the ashes, a small piece of paper caught the light. She bent down and picked it up. Written clearly were the words, "Trust no one." Lena's breath hitched. She realized the investigation had just begun. But before she could make sense of it all, her phone buzzed again. An unknown number. She answered. A cold voice whispered, "Stop digging, detective. Or you'll be next." Then the line went dead. Lena stood frozen, the weight of the warning pressing down on her. Outside, the fog thickened, swallowing the mansion whole. The Cain family's secrets were deeper and darker than anyone imagined. And Lena knew one thing for certain: the killer was still watching. Waiting for her next move. The game had only just begun. The phone call haunted Lena. The chilling warning echoed in her mind as she stared out into the thick fog that swallowed the Cain estate. The silence outside was broken only by the distant howl of the wind. She knew this case was far from over. In fact, it had only grown darker. Lena sat at her desk in the dimly lit office, the photograph and torn papers spread before her. The stranger beside James Cain in the faded picture gnawed at her thoughts. Who was he? Why did Richard Cain's face flash in the passenger seat of the speeding black car? And why had Claire risked everything to hand her that envelope? She dialed Detective Grant's number. It rang once, twice, and then disconnected. No answer. Her gut told her Grant was in trouble. Maybe even connected to this web of secrets. Frustrated but undeterred, Lena turned her attention back to the journal she had found hidden behind the bookshelf. The entries were cryptic, revealing glimpses of James's paranoia. "They think I'm weak," one line read. "But I know what they want. It's not money. It's something older. Something buried in the past." Lena pulled out her notebook and jotted down notes. Something about the Cain family legacy was festering beneath the surface. She needed answers. The next morning, she returned to the estate with forensic specialists. The team began a fresh sweep of the grounds, combing through every inch of the sprawling property. Lena walked the perimeter slowly, eyes sharp. The broken window in the study caught her attention again. A faint smudge on the glass was almost invisible. She motioned to the technician. "Fingerprints here. Partial, but it's something." The tech carefully swabbed the area. Lena's phone vibrated. It was a text from Claire. "Meet me at the old mill. Midnight." No signature. Lena's heart skipped. She had no idea what Claire was about to reveal, but she had to be there. She spent the day interviewing more family members, pushing harder. Margaret Cain was evasive when questioned about her late husband's business. "There were threats, but nothing concrete," she said, eyes flicking away. Richard was colder than before. "This family's decay is your problem, detective. Stay out of it." Lena clenched her fists but said nothing. She knew better than to back down. Hours later, Lena drove through winding roads, her car headlights cutting through the thick fog. The old mill stood decrepit and forgotten at the edge of town, its broken windows like empty eyes. She parked and waited, every nerve alert. A shadow moved between the rusted machinery. Claire stepped into the light, face pale but determined. "Thank you for coming," Claire whispered. Lena nodded. "Tell me everything." Claire took a deep breath. "It's worse than you think. James wasn't just paranoid. He was protecting something, someone." Lena's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Claire's voice cracked. "His brother. Samuel Cain." Lena's heart thudded. She hadn't heard that name in the investigation. Samuel Cain was the black sheep, disappeared years ago, rumored dead. Why didn't anyone mention him? Lena asked. Claire looked around nervously. "Because Samuel isn't dead. And he's the key to all this." Lena's mind reeled. Samuel Cain. The missing brother. The forgotten Cain. Claire pulled a small, battered notebook from her coat. James wrote about him here. About secrets Samuel uncovered. Something about the family fortune and a betrayal. Lena flipped through the pages. Names, dates, cryptic references to a hidden truth and the pact. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from the mill's rafters. Both women froze. A shadow darted across the far wall. Lena reached for her gun. "Stay behind me." They moved cautiously toward the sound. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the darkness. Lena fired a shot. The attacker stumbled, then disappeared into the shadows. Claire gasped. "Who was that?" "I don't know," Lena said grimly. "But whoever it is wants to keep the Cain secrets buried." Claire nodded, face pale. "We're running out of time." The following day, Lena confronted Richard again, this time armed with the new information about Samuel. Richard's face twisted in anger. "Samuel is a ghost story. Nothing more." Lena's voice was steady. "I have evidence he's alive. And that is connected to your father's death." Richard's hand slammed on the table. "You're meddling where you shouldn't." Margaret entered quietly. "Richard, please," she said softly, "there's more to this family than you want to admit." Lena watched the tension rise like a storm about to break. Later, alone in the study, Lena pored over the letters again. The phrase "trust no one" rang louder in her ears. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You're closer than you think. Be careful who you call friend." Lena's blood ran cold. That night, she returned home, locking every door and window. But sleep eluded her. In the quiet, her phone lit up again. This time, it was a video. Lena's breath caught as she watched. A shadowy figure stood in the Cain study. The figure held a knife. Then, a sudden flash. The screen went black. A message appeared. "Next time, it might be you." Lena's hands shook. Someone was watching her every move. The next morning, Lena received an unexpected visitor. It was Samuel Cain. Tall, rugged, eyes sharp like a hawk. He looked tired but resolute. "You shouldn't have dug this deep, detective," he warned. Lena stared him down. "I want the truth." Samuel sighed. "You don't know what you're up against." He revealed fragments of a story tangled in greed, lies, and a long-forgotten pact between the Cain brothers and a powerful, dangerous enemy. "The family fortune is cursed," Samuel said quietly. "It's not just money they are fighting over. It's a secret that could destroy us all." Before Lena could ask more, Samuel's phone rang. He glanced at it, face paling. "I have to go. But be careful, Lena. The shadows are closer than you think." He vanished into the foggy morning like a ghost. Lena felt the weight of his words settle on her shoulders. Determined, she returned to the Cain estate. She found Claire waiting in the garden, face grim. "Samuel called," Claire said. "He's in danger. And so are we." Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. They ran toward the sound. In the darkened hallway, Margaret Cain lay unconscious, clutching a crumpled note. Lena took the note, hands trembling. It read, "You will pay for digging up the past." Lena's eyes darted around. Footsteps retreated down the hall. She called for help. The Cain family's dark legacy was unraveling fast and deadly. Lena knew the killer was desperate. And the next move could be her last. As she helped Margaret to her feet, a chilling thought gripped her. What if the real enemy wasn't the Cain family, but something far worse? Outside, the night air thickened. A cold wind whispered through the trees. And Lena's phone buzzed once more. A message, this time just one word. "Watch." Before she could react, the lights flickered and died. She was plunged into darkness. The house seemed to hold its breath. And from the shadows, a voice whispered, "Welcome to the true Cain family nightmare." Darkness swallowed the Cain estate whole. Lena's breath was shallow, each sound amplified in the black silence. The voice, cold, sinister, still echoed in her ears. "Welcome to the true Cain family nightmare." Her phone's screen was dead. The world felt claustrophobic, the shadows pressing in. Then, a sudden spark of light. Her flashlight. Fumbling, Lena clicked it on. The beam sliced through the darkness, revealing the ornate walls of the mansion's grand hall, eerily silent but for the creaking floorboards beneath her feet. Margaret's weak moans came from the library nearby. Lena rushed to her side. Margaret's eyes fluttered open, but confusion clouded her face. "Detective," she whispered, voice trembling. "We need to get you out," Lena said, helping her up. But before they could move, a chilling crash echoed from upstairs. The sound of shattered glass, then hurried footsteps retreating. Lena's heart pounded. The house was no longer just a crime scene, it was a trap. "Someone's still here," she said. Margaret nodded weakly. "They want the secret, buried with us." Lena glanced at the torn note Margaret had clutched. "You will pay for digging up the past." The words carved themselves deeper into her mind. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, harsh and glaring. But instead of relief, the brightness revealed something terrifying. On the grand staircase, smeared in blood, was a message scrawled in frantic handwriting. "Trust no one." Lena swallowed hard. She felt the walls closing in, every corner hiding eyes watching, waiting. She pulled out her phone, now powered, and dialed Detective Grant's number again. It rang. And rang. No answer. A cold sweat broke out. Her instinct screamed danger was close. Suddenly, a sharp clang behind her made her spin. Standing in the doorway was Richard Cain. His face was pale, eyes wild. "Detective," he said, voice strained, "we need to talk. Now." Lena didn't lower her guard but followed him cautiously to the study. Inside, Richard slammed the door shut. "I know things have been messy," he said, voice low, "but you're in deeper than you realize." Lena stared. "Then tell me." Richard took a shaky breath. "There's more to Samuel Cain than you know." Lena's eyes narrowed. "You mean the missing brother?" Richard nodded. "Samuel was never just the black sheep. He got involved with dangerous people. The kind that don't forgive." "Dangerous people?" Lena echoed. Richard hesitated. "A syndicate. Shadowy figures tied to the family's fortune. They've been pulling strings for decades." He pulled out a worn envelope, tossing it onto the desk. Lena opened it carefully. Inside were photos, Samuel meeting with unidentified men in dark alleys, documents hinting at illegal deals, and a note. "Keep the pact. Or pay the price." Lena felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "This explains the threats. The warnings. The murder." She looked up at Richard. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I want out," Richard said bitterly. "And if I don't cooperate, I'm next." Before Lena could respond, the study's windows rattled violently. A thunderstorm had erupted. Lightning flashed, illuminating the tense faces. Margaret's voice trembled from behind the door. "Help me!" Lena rushed back to find her collapsed again. "Margaret, stay with me," Lena pleaded. Margaret grasped her hand. "The past is cursed," she whispered, "and it's coming for all of us." The mansion seemed to groan under the weight of the storm, a warning of what was to come. Lena's phone buzzed again. A text. "Stop now. Or lose everything." She stared at the message, heart racing. The pieces were falling into place, but the puzzle was deadly. Who could she trust? The Cain family? The missing Samuel? Or someone else lurking in the shadows? Determined, Lena decided to visit the one person who might hold the answers, the elusive Claire. She drove through the rain-slicked streets to Claire's apartment. The door creaked open. Claire's face was pale, haunted. "I knew they'd come for me," Claire said breathlessly. "Samuel called me last night. Said he was in danger." "Where is he now?" Lena asked. Claire hesitated. "He said he'd meet me at the old chapel. But he never showed." Lena's gut twisted. The old chapel, abandoned for years, rumored to be a place of dark deals and broken promises. They left immediately. The drive was tense. When they reached the chapel, the air felt thick with unease. The wooden doors hung open, creaking in the storm wind. Inside, the flicker of a candle barely pierced the darkness. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Samuel Cain. He looked worn, eyes hollow but fierce. "You shouldn't have come," he said. Lena stepped forward. "We need answers. Why are you hiding? Who is after the Cain family?" Samuel's face twisted with pain. "There's a pact," he said quietly. "A secret that binds this family and the syndicate. It's older than anyone knows, blood and betrayal at its core." He pulled out a faded document, a centuries-old contract signed by the Cain ancestors. This pact granted the family power and wealth, at a terrible cost. Lena felt the weight of his words. "Who made the pact?" Samuel swallowed hard. "A dark figure. Known only as the broker. He controls everything, the syndicate, the threats, the murders." "Then the killer," Lena whispered, "is working for the broker." Samuel nodded. "And he won't stop until the pact is fulfilled or destroyed." Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind them. Lena spun around, but there was no one. A cold wind blew out the candle. Darkness swallowed them once more. In the silence, a whisper echoed through the chapel. "The pact must live, or all will die." Lena's heart thundered. As they hurried out, the storm grew fiercer, as if nature itself warned of the coming storm. Back in the car, Samuel's voice was grim. "They are closing in. The broker's reach is endless." Claire looked at Lena, fear in her eyes. "What do we do?" Lena's jaw tightened. "We fight. Because if we don't, the Cain family, and everyone involved, will be lost forever." The road ahead was dark and treacherous. But Lena was no stranger to danger. And this time, the stakes were higher than ever. As they drove into the night, Lena's phone lit up again. A new message. Only one word. "Watch." But this time, attached was a live video feed. Lena's breath hitched. The camera showed her own house. Inside, a shadow moved behind the curtains. And then, a whisper. "Your family is next." The screen went black. Lena's hands shook. She realized the nightmare was no longer just about the Cain family. It was personal. The shadows had found her. And the true horror was only beginning.